Spock is real pissed off, and no one is in the mood to deal with it.
He's throwing shit. And who does he think is going to clean that up?
Kirk, being the worst human possible, over and over keeps insisting that Spock tell him what's wrong, even though it's clearly upsetting him.
Which means another sensitivity course for the entire ship when this report inevitably finds its way to higher courts. Thank you, Captain Kirk. It's just Ponfar, which is like puberty, but at super high speeds, which you have our sympathies, because puberty sucks for any species. Ponfar's not a secret. Xenobiology is a foundation course at Starfleet Academy.
It was on the final.
That's it? Tipper goes through Ponfar once a year.
In truth, I went through Ponfar years ago. I'm not due for another 3.75 years. I just tell the crew that I go through it yearly, so that way I can pay them back for making me do actual work.
So Vulcan biology dictates that if Spock doesn't get some, he's going to die of fatal blue balls.
Tipper is not available.
On Vulcan, this is solved with marriage, and the culmination of marriage, with Spock's Vulcan intended to pring.
Who is smoking hot, but not interested in Spock at all. No, she's interested in Spock's cousin, who I've forgotten the name of. She'd rather stick in that lane.
Spock goes to Vulcan, and Kirk and McCoy go along. I mean, even though it's a super secret and sensitive tradition.
They both insisted they be there.
McCoy, for future medical reference. And we believe him, because we know how he feels about Vulcans and sex.
Kirk says he's going for emotional support. Yeah, we don't believe him. I mean, we have no idea how long these sexy PDA things are. I think he's just interested in that.
Anyway, T'Pring is entitled to choose someone else she'd like to marry. And then the challenger has to fight Spock to the death. This is Vulcan, super civilized.
These are your people, Tipper.
And then T'Pring turns out to be a complete bitch, because instead of choosing Stan, her main squeeze, she decides to choose Kirk and hedge her bets just that much more.
Who's a bitch?
Because if Spock loses, Kirk's not going to want to marry her, because she's a bitch, and she just made him murder his best friend.
And if Spock wins, he's not going to want to marry her anyways, because she's a bitch, and then he's going to murder his best friend. Which I wouldn't mind, but I mean, she wins either way. And so Kirk and Spock fight to the death.
I just want to point out, in the most selective slashing in deathmatch history, Spock gets Kirk right here. Not enough to hurt him, but enough to get us a nip slip. How?
Kirk's dead, and Spock's not interested in T'Pring anymore. Spock wins because Vulcan.
He's kind of bummed, and not going through Ponfar. Murder tends to have a sobering effect.
So he leaves T'Pring and Stan with a very polite, "fuck you," and goes back to the Enterprise to be arrested.
But McCoy faked Kirk's death, and he's fine, and Spock's fine, and everybody's fine.
Spock even smiled. I caught it on camera.
And it's almost heartwarming.
Yeah, if you ignore the sex and murder.
In Ponfar, those are your only choices. I choose both.
And she's a bitch. Those are the 3 points.
Yes, okay.
Murder, bitch.
Murder, bitch, not gonna want to marry, murder. Anyways, win, lose. Okay, got it. So,
Got it?
okay.